On this episode of Translogic, we check out some small automakers with big dreams. The team at Spira has made a foam car that floats. Elio Motors aims to simplify your commute, and Illuminati Motor Works takes a page from the past and the future.
How did you come up with this name, and have you had any phone threats?
Welcome to Translogic. I'm Jonathon Buckley. If you've ever been hit by a car or seen somebody who has, you've probably realised that it's not so much fun. However, if the car involved is made out of foam, all of a sudden that experience becomes a lot less painful. That's exactly why the Spira was born. So I'm here with Doug Ballard, Vice President of Spira, the foam car that was originally designed to compete in the X Prize.
Yeah, actually the second prototype we ever made was for the Spira getting into the X Prize. When we developed our first one, it was because my brother was always kind of playing around with three-wheel vehicles, and we made a first prototype. He went in with his hands and he built basically a car out of foam.
So tell us a little bit about what the X Prize was.
There was $10 million in prize money. They wanted vehicles that can do 100 miles per gallon or 100 miles per gallon the equivalent. Yep. And we actually tied for second place in our category.
Wow, excellent. Well, there's a first time for everything, and I've never quite had to steer a car, or a motorcycle for that matter, in this particular fashion before. So this is the Spira. It's got a 5 kilowatt motor, approximately 70 miles of range, 60 miles an hour top speed, and I have to say, it's kind of a nice way to get around.
When we first got into this, we were looking at ways to protect people and also protect the vehicle. Two of the things most people don't realize in vehicle accidents around the world is that half the people that are killed in them aren't inside the vehicle. They're actually bicyclists, pedestrians, and also motorcyclists. In North America, it's about 25%, but in Asia, it's like 90%. So that was the idea of foam, is that we put the airbags on the outside of the vehicle, not inside the vehicle.
Okay. Is it the same kind of stuff that we pack our TVs in? Is that you just get that kind of foam and make a car out of it? Is it?
This is basically styrofoam on steroids. This is actually polypropylene. Polypropylene is a foam that can be very easily recycled. So we're the only vehicle I know that's out there that's essentially all composite, all recyclable, all composite. Right. So that's another benefit for the environment.
What about the person inside the vehicle? Are we making some kind of sacrifice in safety because we've adopted this foam car?
One thing that came out of this is that because we have a lot of foam in front, also the way we designed it with this core board material, we have half the G-force loads in a crash. In a typical car crash, what happens is you don't usually have a head-on. It's usually an offset, like 30–40%. If I have this core board front end covered with this foam. So what happens in a crash is that it hits the foam and it actually careens down the side. You'll hit, you get deflected off.
We've got heated seats with a switch back there for those cold winter mornings. We've even got a reverse camera, a backup camera, just for when you're heading out of the driveway. You don't want to bump into a pedestrian, but then the car is made of foam, so you're not going to hurt him anyway. Tight turn, don't tip over, don't tip over, don't tip over. Not bad. When it comes to a three-wheel configuration, we've found that things can tend to be a little unstable when you have a single wheel in the front and the two wheels behind. A lot of other companies have reversed that. Why did you decide to go with the single front configuration?
A lot of it was for simplicity of design. When we do this, you can see our vehicle, we try to make it with as few parts as possible and light as possible and least complicated. We were in the X Prize and we had to do a 50-mile-per-hour swerve test, and we passed it no problem.
The control setup in this car is totally unique. I've never really driven anything like it. It's a steering column that's attached directly to the single front wheel, which has motorcycle controls, but not in a regular configuration, kind of pushed down into an upside-down V configuration.
It's basically a modified handlebar, so you can imagine if you're riding a motorcycle, your hands like this. Yep. Now you basically just bring them to you, and then it turns into a tiller type of steering. It makes things very simple.
You twist the throttle to go forward, You have the buttons for your indicators, your headlights, your horn. You use a foot brake like a conventional vehicle. And what this car also has, a foot pedal accelerator as well. So I can choose whether or not I use my hand or my foot.
It's definitely more of a car than a motorcycle. It's got the motorcycle controls, yes, but even being a motorcycle rider, I found myself leaning more towards using the regular pedal accelerator than the hand controls.
So from what I understand, there's 3 versions available. We've got the 5 kilowatt hour behind us.
Right.
A 10 kilowatt hour.
That's correct.
That's also available. And then you also a potential for a gas-powered version?
Yes, we have a gas-powered version. It will be powered by a 150cc fuel injection engine, so we expect that to be available later this year. And also, it's at a lower price point. It's $7,000.
And for the electric-powered version, what are we looking at?
The one behind us here, it will be starting at $9,000 for 5 kilowatt battery pack.
Hold it! Hey! Oh, I got the back end to step out a little bit there. It's super lightweight. You feel that as soon as you get in. It's like 520 pounds. You mentioned that you're able to actually lift it up.
Right.
And you can essentially, if there's no room, park it on its rear wheels.
Yeah, it's like a ballerina. It'll go up on point. You can imagine a place like New York City where parking is at a premium, or even in your own garage right now. A lot of people have a little extra space, but they don't have enough for a total spare, but yet they park it up at the very front. Not a problem.
Your car actually floats, doesn't it?
Right, our car will float. I mean, when we designed this, it was just sort of a fluke of engineering.
Any thoughts of down the track perhaps putting a propeller on the back?
We may do that. I mean, actually, that was part of our patent. We put in, it can be made amphibious by simply doing that. Put in a small trolling motor in the back and go around to your favorite fishing hole.
The beautiful thing is, cruising along the side of this gorgeous lake down here in San Diego, if I should have a problem and end up veering off down the hill, crashing into the water, this car will float and I won't have to do a James Bond underwater escape. So you might not be taking your styrofoam packaging and building a car anytime soon, but that's essentially what Spira have done. They've built a car that's much more pleasant to be hit by, made from recycled materials, it's much more efficient, and it's a lot of fun to drive.
Later on, we'll cruise the cornfields with Illuminati Motor Works. But first, Elio Motors shows off its unique commuter. Turning a few heads now, I'll tell you what.
Autoblog, the ultimate automotive resource. From the latest vehicle reviews, shopping advice, and ownership tips, to helpful apps, community forums, and photo sharing. Autoblog, where you can research, shop, and share everything on wheels.
Welcome to Translogic, I'm Jonathon Buckley. EVs and hybrids tend to dominate green vehicle discussions lately, but there are super efficient gas-powered vehicles out there roaming the back roads and the highways, or just itching to get off the factory floor. And if Elio Motors has anything to say about it, they'll be leading the pack with their super efficient and very affordable three-wheeler. So, my first experience in the Elio, it's kind of fun. The first time you hop in this thing, it looks so small from the outside, but as soon as you hop in, it's like, I have plenty of room. It's like I'm laying back here. As far as performance figures go, you've got an inline 3-cylinder engine. It's a 900cc engine. It's making about 55 horsepower. They say it takes about 10 seconds to get to 0 to 60. So it's not a performance car. It's not out there to blow the doors off of a BMW M3. That's not the intention in this vehicle. It's about having a new way to get yourself around without using up all this space, without using all this gas. 84 miles to the gallon on the highway. That's 49 miles to the gallon in the city. And it's a total range on a tank of gas 672 miles, so that'll get you where you need to go pretty cheap. And at $6,800, pretty good option. Well, to find out more about this little beast behind me, let's talk to the founder and CEO of Elio Motors, Paul Elio. Mate, thanks very much for letting me drive the prototype. I have to say, I did give it a little bit of a thrashing out there, and I was very impressed. It does really well.
Well, two things. It's fun to drive. You feel like you're in a little Indy car. And two, you don't know you have only 3 wheels unless you stick your head out the window.
When it comes to price point on this car, you've projected $6,800 when it's released. How are you managing to do that?
First of all, it's a lightweight vehicle. It weighs about 1,200 pounds. Most small cars weigh 2,400 pounds. Half as much stuff costs less. It just does. Part of it's the design process. So we get all the suppliers together about every 4 to 6 weeks, and we engineer the vehicle as a group. And so we optimize on vehicle costs instead of part costs.
You mentioned 1,200 pounds. Is that the key to the extreme mileage that you're getting out of the Elio?
Oddly, no. So mass dominates your city mileage, and aerodynamics dominate your highway mileage. So by sitting 2 people front to back instead of side by side, we're half as wide, we move half as much air, we get double the mileage. There's no magic here.
Yeah. And being able to, like I say, being able to put your elbows on either side, it's kind of like a rolling armchair. The engine is a little bit sluggish, but as I've talked to the guys from Elio, this isn't the final engine that will be in the production model. This is a prototype engine, so the actual final production model will have a more powerful engine. It's close to double the torque that this one has. Turning a few heads now, I'll tell you what. Safety-wise, how does it stand up?
We have engineered it to achieve a 5-star crash rating in all directions. And everybody knows that mass is part of the safety equation, right? More mass is better in an impact. It's not the only variable. I mean, think about an Indy car. It weighs 1,600 pounds. They drive into a wall at 200 miles per hour and the guy walks away. It's not the only variable. If you notice, it has a very long nose.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of crumple zone to slow that event down. You know, we have 3 airbags up front and 2 side. And because of our front-to-back seating, we fire all 3 airbags in every event.
Who would you say that the Elio is targeted directly at?
I know it sounds trite, but we say it's E for everyone. If you're starting out and your option is a 120,000-mile clunker for $7,000 or a brand new Elio, you pick the Elio.
Yep.
And as you progress, you have your Escalade and you buy your Elio to go back and forth to work in. We're the first and car instead of an or car.
Handling-wise, it feels great. There's very little body roll. You forget that you've only got one wheel back there. You've got such a low center of gravity that to get this thing out of shape, you'd really be having to do something a little bit silly. As far as driving this thing is concerned, I think it's a hoot. It's not refined by any means. I mean, you don't have power steering, which I don't mind. It's a very visceral driving feel. You can feel all the bumps, you can feel the steering, you can hear the engine, but I think that all adds to the experience. I see the potential in this car for certain. It's still in a prototype phase and it's gonna need a considerable amount of work, but once this thing's refined, this thing's gonna be a winner. Is it considered a car or a motorcycle?
It is a motorcycle. Per the federal government, if you have
Right.
3 wheels or less on the road, it's a motorcycle, not a car.
So does that mean that you can use the carpool HOV lane just the same as a motorcycle can?
Well, we're a motorcycle, so yes, you can drive in the HOV lane all by yourself.
But you don't have to wear a helmet.
We're going through state by state getting that changed because there was a handful that you had to wear a helmet inside the vehicle. It actually is unsafe.
In a twist of irony, you guys have taken over a little factory down in Louisiana that used to be run by Hummer, kind of the antithesis of the Elio.
Right, and it's not such a little factory. It's 4 million square feet, which is 100 acres under one roof.
Well, when you're running at full capacity, how many Elios do you hope to be producing down the track per year?
250,000 units per year.
Wow.
Which is a large number.
Right.
And we can do that because we're not really competing against other new vehicles.
Yeah.
I don't think people are going to opt for this over a Toyota Yaris.
Yeah.
Right? It's an and car, it's a new market, it's a new segment.
So there you go. The Elio is pretty much everything it claims to be. A cheap, stylish and capable commuter vehicle. And while it's not top of the line or super high performance, it's actually a whole lot of fun to drive. And judging by the response so far, it seems like people are liking it too. But we won't know for sure until we start seeing more of these on the road. Up next, we discover the secrets of the Illuminati.
The Volt gets 98. The Leaf scored 99. We scored 207.5 miles per gallon equivalent.
That is huge.
Welcome to Translogic. I'm Jonathon Buckley. Now you're probably wondering why I'm sneaking around in a cornfield in the middle of central Illinois. Well, we've been given a hot tip. We're looking for the headquarters of the Illuminati. I'm here with Kevin Smith. He's the owner and team leader of Illuminati Motor Works. Mate, how did this all begin? What was the idea behind the Seven?
In 2007, the X Prize Foundation waved a prize flag out there of $10 million for the first team that could build a full-size street-legal vehicle that got at least 100 miles per gallon and sat 4 full-size adults and did some other things like that. We placed second overall in a winner-takes-all competition. We didn't stop working on it just because the competition was over. We had an opportunity to have it efficiency tested at Chrysler and run the official EPA 74 test cycle to find out what the miles per gallon equivalent is for an electric or a hybrid car.
And what were the results?
Well, the Volt gets 98. The Leaf scored 99. We scored 207.5 miles per gallon equivalent.
That is huge. Because there are other cars out there. I mean, you've got the VW XL1.
It's a 2-seat vehicle. We're a full-size sedan. We're licensed in the state of Illinois as a custom sedan.
Right, got you. So for a 4-seater.
For a full-size street-legal car, we are the most efficient car in the world.
Wow, there you go.
When we started this, there's 7 of us now. We all work for the state of Illinois. And we just entered a competition to build the 100-mile-per-gallon car. And the Illuminati, who work for the government, supposedly hid the 100-mile-per-gallon carburetor. Right. So we thought it would be kind of funny and educational.
Yep. Where did the name Seven come from?
When we were looking at different names to use for the car, we were trying to avoid other names that were already being used. And then we thought, well, you know, why don't we look at some Masonic symbology and see what else they've used, since we're just using Illuminati anyway. And 7 kept coming up in a lot of their symbology. Then we started looking at other car names out there, and there were some old Morgan-like looking cars that used the name 7 back in the 30s, which was kind of stylistically what we were looking for.
Tell me a little bit about the looks of the car, because the first thing you notice when you walk in the door is that this car is like this neo-noir, almost Sin City style looking car. I mean, it looks incredible. What was the thought process behind that?
We went for drivetrain and aerodynamics. The drivetrain is an AC electric motor, liquid cooled. It's the most efficient one we could find. Once we had the drivetrain settled, it was then the body work. How do you make the body as aerodynamic as possible so it meets all the requirements of the competition? And so it looks cool. We wanted to get some retro styling into it. The most aerodynamic shape is a teardrop. It's rounded on one end and it has a tapering tail as the water droplet falls. So we looked at the 1930s and 40s vehicles and then why those cars are being made rounded. Well, one, it was the style. Mostly they did it because now it's more aerodynamic.
What was the thought process behind the gull-wing doors? Was that from the get-go, just looks awesome, we have to have it?
All of us always loved gull-wing doors. So from the get-go, we wanted them, and we kept waffling back and forth. Well, it's really hard to make them, and how do you make the door seals? Well, in the end, it was just easier to get in and out of the car.
Well, let's talk about you and the team, for instance. A car like the 7, there's no manual for that. There's nothing that says, oh, this is where you start and this is where you get to. I mean, you guys, it's been a constant learning curve for you, hasn't it?
I think anyone can do this if they're willing to spend the time.
And it's taken a lot of man hours.
And it's taken a lot of man hours. We're up to about 20,000 man hours to build this car. If you and your buddies want to learn how to build a car, we can start now and you'll be home in I don't know, when your kids are in first grade, right?
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we're just going to do a full U-turn here.
Yeah, we got it, no problem.
Bit tight.
No, you got it, it's clear.
And we're through. Not bad for a car that's twice as long as most.
124.5-inch wheelbase.
Yeah, it's pretty massive. It's a little quicker than I thought it was. You know, it's surprisingly no slouch. Looking at this thing, it looks massive. It looks like it's very, very heavy.
It's fairly quick. You know, we do the 0 to 60 in 6.5 seconds. You know, at 130 mile an hour top speed. It is a large car. It weighs 2,900 pounds. It's got 800 pounds of battery sitting between us here.
So that's where they are, right between us here.
Right between us.
What sort of batteries are they? Because there's various types that you can use nowadays.
Right. These are a lithium chemistry, but they're a lithium iron phosphate. It's a very stable chemistry.
It is a full car too. I mean, you might not be able to see from here, from this angle, but we've got 2 seats back there facing rearward.
Yep.
And we've got a fully functional trunk, and it's got a tow hitch as well. So you guys really didn't skimp on anything. And the Seven handles well too, because you've got all-wheel steering, don't you?
Yes, four-wheel steering. We borrowed that from a Honda Prelude.
Wow. With the four-wheel steering, I'm just noticing, does the back kind of drift a little bit? Is that the...
When you initially turn the steering wheel, so it works at high and low speeds,
Yeah.
the rear wheels turn the same direction as the front.
It feels like the back end's almost doing a miniature drift.
It is, because
it's actually quite a cozy feeling. It's just like swinging your hips.
So we had to have a steering radius of a small car. So we adapted the Honda Prelude to it.
Speaking of that, I mean, this isn't a all original car, but it's also a little bit of a mutt, isn't it? Because you've taken bits and pieces from existing cars and sort of mashed them all together, haven't you?
The suspension on it is from a Dodge Neon. That's the biggest component we took from anything. The brakes off of it are from the master cylinders from a 69 Volkswagen. The reservoir from it's for a Peugeot. The rear brakes are 99 Taurus SHO. The front headlights are from 39 Ford.
Where do you see it going? I mean, what's the plan for the Seven? I mean, you've got this car now. Obviously, there's still work that you're planning on doing to it from the discussions that we've had.
The X Prize is over. We've been working on the car like we talked about, and we've been going to other competitions. But we've also been going to schools and fairs, and we show it to people. Now we're in it for education. Yeah, we're still making it better. Where it's at now, we're still tested at 207 miles per gallon. We can still go 130 miles an hour. We can go 0 to 60 in 6.5 seconds. We seat 4 full-size adults. We have a 200-mile range on a charge, and it's a car. You just get in and drive it. There's nothing really special about it other than its shape. It has an efficient drivetrain.
Well, that was a truly unique experience in a wholly original car. Well, maybe not wholly original when you take into account some of its parts, but it's far more original than most of the cars you're going to see on the road. What excites us the most, though, is this is a family and a team with a can-do attitude who ended up with a kick-ass car to show for it. And if this got built in the middle of a barn in a cornfield in Illinois, that just makes us wonder what's going on in barns all across the country. For Translogic, I'm Jonathon Buckley. We'll catch you next time.